Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Coders Arcade. In today's video, we will be discussing the next topic which is decision making and branching in C language. So before starting the video, I would like to request you people to please like our videos, share it with your friends and family and press the bell icon so that you receive a notification of our latest updates. Thank you. So let's start with today's topic. So, what is decision making and branching? Decision making is about deciding the order of execution of statements based on certain conditions or repeat a group of statements until certain specified conditions are met. C language handles decision making by supporting the following statements, which are the if statement, the switch statement, the conditional operator, the go to operator. So these are the four types of decision making statements used in C, as I told you. As you can see here, these are the if statement, the switch statement, the conditional operator statement, and the go to statement. These statements are popularly known as decision making statements. Since these statements control the flow of execution, they are also known as control statements. We have already used some of these statements in the earlier examples. Here, we shall discuss their features, capabilities, and applications in more detail. So, let us start with the first one, which is the if statement. So, the if statement is a powerful decision making statement and is used to control the flow of execution of statements. It is basically a two-way decision statement and is used in conjunction with an expression. It takes the following form or syntax, as you can see here. If test expression. It allows the computer to evaluate the expression first, and then, depending on whether the value of the expression, relation, or condition is true or false, it transfers the control to a particular statement. This point of program has two paths to follow, one for the true condition and the other for the false condition, as shown in the figure. As you can see here, there is an entry and then you have the test expression. If the expression is false, then it follows the false path. If it is true, it follows the true path. This is called the two-way branching. Some examples of decision making using if statements are as follows. If bank balance is 0, borrow money. Then if room is dark, put on lights. If code is 1, person is male. Or else if age is more than 55, you can take any other number. Age is more than 60, person is retired. So the if statement may be implemented in different forms depending on the complexity of conditions to be tested. The different forms of the if statement are the simple if statement, the if else statement, the nested if else statement, and the if else ladder. We shall discuss each one of them in the next few minutes. So let's start with the simple if statement. The general form of a simple if statement is if test expression, then the statement blocks, then after that statement X. The statement block may be a single statement or a group of statements. If the test expression is true, the statement block will be executed. Otherwise, the statement block will be skipped and the execution will jump to the statement X. Remember, when the condition is true, both the statement block and the statement X are executed in sequence. This is illustrated by this flowchart. So you can see here, we have the entry, then the test expression, and it follows two parts, true and false. If it is true, it will execute the statement block, then it will go to the statement X. If it is false, it will directly go to the statement X. Then it will go on to the next statement. So let us look at an example where we will be knowing about the if statement more. I will go to my editor now. So here you can see in my editor, I have already written a program for you. And I have included the standard input output library by writing this hash include stdio.h. Then this is my main function, and here I have declared four variables which are integer data type, and I have taken another variable ratio which is of the floating data type. Then I am asking the user to input this four integer values, and then I am taking the user input by using the scanf function. Then what I am trying to do is I am trying to calculate the ratio. When I am calculating the ratio, I am doing it when the value of c minus d is not equal to 0, because if c minus d is 0, then you cannot divide any number with 0. So I am giving this if block, and here I am taking the condition c minus d not equal to 0. Then if it is true, then it will calculate the ratio like this. It will calculate a plus b, and then it will calculate c minus d, and then it will divide a plus b by c minus d, and finally it will print the ratio. If c minus d is not equal to 0 or this statement is false, then it will do nothing. It will just go out of the program execution. So I will run it for you and show it to you. The shortcut is F9. I am pressing it. So I will just zoom it for you so that you can see it better. Now it's visible. I will give four numbers. You can see I'm giving 1, then 2, then 3, and then 4. So if I press enter now, the ratio will be calculated, because you can see 3 minus 4 will be minus 1. So it is not 0. It will calculate the result. I'm pressing enter. And here you can see the ratio comes in minus, because 3 minus 4 is minus 1. And we are getting the answer as minus 3.0, because this is float. So the program is working correctly, and I will press enter once again. I will show you the alternative part where this thing will not work. So I'm pressing F9 once again to run it. And here you can see I'll zoom it once again. Now I will provide the values again, say 1, 2, and 3. This is C, and for D again I will give 3. So 3 minus 3 will be 0. And now you can see it will not print the ratio. I'll press enter, and now you can see it finished the process, but it did not give any output. So this is a simple example of the if statement. I'll press enter. So here you can see only when this condition is true, then it is executing this part of the code. Otherwise, it is simply going out of the execution statement and it is ending the program. So now I will show you another example of the if statement where we will be using a compound operator. So here you can see this is another program where I am using the if statement but with the compound operator. What I am doing is I am trying to calculate the number of boys who have their weight less than 50 and who have their height greater than 170. So to combine them, I am using this line of code, and here you can see this and. This is the AND operator. So what it will do is, if both these conditions are true, only then it will increment this count by count equal to count plus 1. So I will explain the whole program line by line. Here we can see this is the count variable and the I variable, which are integer, and I have the weight and the height. Then I am initializing the count to 0, and I am taking this print statement where I am telling the user to enter the weight and height for 10 boys. And here you can see I am using a for loop, and then I am asking the user to input the weight and height. And after a single value is provided, I am incrementing the count to count plus 1. So as soon as we will be getting any one boy weight less than 50 and height greater than 170, this count equal to count plus 1 will be executed, and this count equal to 0 value will be incremented. So like this we will be getting the number of boys who have weight less than 50 and also height greater than 170. So this 50 is in kg and this height is in 170 centimeters. So after that, I am trying to print the number of boys with weight less than 50 and height greater than 170, and with the help of this count. So this count will be incremented and we will be getting the result. So now let me show how it works. I will run it for you. I'm pressing F9 and you can see, let me zoom it for you. It says enter weight and height for 10 boys. So I will give say 45 and space 172, enter. I will give many other values, 36, 150, and I will keep on giving it 170. So now you can see I have given 10 weight and height values for boys, for 10 boys, and you can see all these values here. So my condition was less than 50 kg and greater than 170. So this one satisfies it. And again, I will show you which one satisfies it. And I guess I gave only one value which satisfies this condition. So now if I press enter, you will be finding the number of boys who have their weight less than 50 and height greater than 170. I'm pressing enter and you can see number of boys with weight less than 50 and height greater than 170 is 2. So let us check in our data. Here you can see I missed it out. You can see the first one is 45 and 172. This satisfies, and this is 39 and 182. This as well satisfies. So we're getting this count equal to 2. So this is how this program is working. I'm pressing enter. And this was an example of an if statement where you can use the compound AND operator, and then you can put an expression in the if block and you can execute it. So now let us move on to the next one, which is the if-else statement. So the if-else statement is an extension of the simple if statement. The general form is, as you can see in the diagram, if test expression, true block statements, else false block statements. Then finally the statement X. So here, if the test expression is true, then the true block statements immediately following the if statements are executed. Otherwise, the false block statements are executed. In either case, either true block or false block will be executed, not both. So whichever is true will be executed. This thing is illustrated with the following flowchart. In both the cases, the control is transferred subsequently to the statement X, as you can see in the flowchart here. So here you can see for the test expression to be true, it goes to the true block statement and then to the statement X. If it is false, it goes to the false block statement and then to the statement X. Let us take a small example so that we can understand more about this if-else statement. I will go to my editor now. So here you can see I have already written a program for you. This program actually checks whether a number is even or odd. So here you can see I have taken an integer data type variable which is number. Then what I am doing is I am using the print statement to print this in the console or the terminal, and then I am taking the user input which is the number. Then I am checking with the help of 2. So definition, according to the definition of even numbers, if it is divisible by 2, then it is a even number or else it is an odd number. So here, if the number is divisible by 2, you can see I am using this mode operator. So this will give the remainder. So that means if number is divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, then it is an even number or else it is an odd number. So here, after this statement is checked, if it is true, then it will print it is an even number or else it will print it is an odd number. So let me run it so that you can understand. I'm pressing F9 and let me zoom it for you so that you can check. I am putting the number 9. So this is an odd number, right? If I press enter, you can see it displays the number is odd. So the program is working perfectly. I will try to show you the even one also. Let me press enter and I will run it again, and let me zoom it for you. Say I press 4 and press enter. So you can see the number is even. So I showed you how to use the if else statement here. And in this case, I am checking whether a number is even or odd by using this program. So you can do many more things with the help of this if and else statement. So now let us move on to the next topic, which is nesting of if else statements. So when a series of decisions are involved, we may have to use more than one if else statement in nested form as shown in the diagram here. So you can see in this diagram, if the condition 1 is false, the statement 3 will be executed, otherwise it continues to perform the second test. If the condition 2 is true, statement 1 will be evaluated, otherwise the statement 2 will be evaluated, and then the control is transferred to the statement X. So let us check a flow chart so that we can understand more about this nested if else statement. So here you can see when the test condition 1 is true, then it goes to the test condition 2, and again it will check the test condition 2. If it is true, it will go to statement 1. If it is false, it will go to statement 2. Then finally, it will go to statement X and then to the new statement. But initially, if the test condition 1 is false, it will directly go to statement 3, and then it will go to statement X and then to the next statement. So this is how it becomes very easy to understand the flow of the nested if else statement. So let us check an example so that we can know and understand the nesting of if else statements in a very good way. I will go to my editor now. So here you can see I have already written out a program using the nested if else statement. Here what I am trying to do is I am taking an user input of 3 numbers and then trying to print the largest of the 3 numbers. So let me show you what I have done here. You can see I have taken 3 variables A, B and C which belong to the floating data type. Now I'm taking the input from the user and then I'm printing the largest number is, then here you can see this is the entire condition. Here I have used the nested if else statement. You can see if A is greater than B, then it will go into this block. You can see here. After A is greater than B, if it is true, then it will check if A is greater than C. Then finally we will be ending up with the conclusion that A is greater than both B and C. Therefore, it will print A as the greatest number. Else it will print C as the greatest number. Or else, if this condition is initially false, then we can assume that B is greater than A. Then we will check B with C. So if B is greater than C, then it will print B, or else it will print C. So this is a simple logic behind the program here, so that we can get the largest of 3 numbers. I will just run it and show it to you how to use it. I'm pressing F9 and let me zoom it for you. So here I will give 3 numbers, say 5, then 6 and then 4. You can see I got the output. The largest number is 6. It is coming in 6 point this decimal digits because I took it as a floating point value. So the program is working correctly, and out of 5, 6 and 4, 6 is the largest. So I'm getting the answer correctly. I'll press enter and let me check it with any other values. I will run it again and let me zoom it for you. I will take 12, press enter, 13, press enter, then I will take 0, 2, press enter. Then you can see out of these 3 numbers, 13 is the greatest. So it's printing this. The largest number is 13. And this decimal points is because I have taken the floating point data type. So this program is working perfectly. I press enter, and here you got to see how to find the largest of three numbers using the nested if-else statement. So here you need to be very careful regarding the indentation, because otherwise you will get confused. If I had written all these if-else statements in the same line, you would have got confused. That's why to properly demonstrate the use of the nested if-else statement, I have used this indentation. You can see there is a space between this. So in order to make your program look good and to make people understand how you were utilizing your source code, it's better to provide indentation. You can do it without using indentation also, but I suggest you use indentation so that your code looks better and it is very easy to understand. So now let us move on to the next topic, which is the else if ladder. Here, what happens is, if you have more than one condition, or to be precise, I can say if you have more than two conditions, and it may go on to say maybe 5, 6, 7 conditions, in that case, we will be using the else if ladder. It becomes very easy to execute the flow of the conditions with the help of this else if ladder. You can see the general syntax of this else if ladder here. So here you can see the if statement has the condition 1 and the statement 1. Then the else if has the condition 2, statement 2, and similarly it will go on. And finally, the final else statement will have the default statement. And then after all, it will give the control to the statement X. This construction is known as the else if ladder. The conditions are evaluated from the top of the ladder downwards. As soon as the true condition is found, the statement associated with it is executed and the control is transferred to the statement X, and it will automatically skip the rest of the ladder. But when all the n conditions become false, then the final else condition, which contains the default statement, will be executed. So let us check a flow chart where you will understand better about it. So here in this flow chart, you can see it will initially check all the conditions, condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, condition n, and whenever it finds the true condition, it will give the control to the statement X. And in other case, whenever all the n conditions are not true, it will execute the default statement and then it will give the condition to statement X. And finally, it will go to the next statement. So this is a beautiful way to understand about the else if ladder. And let us take an example in our editor so that we will understand more about this else if ladder. So here you can see this is the use of the else if ladder. Here we have taken many conditions. You can see what I have done actually in this program is I have initialized a variable I which is of the integer data type and taken the value to be 50 here. And then I am using the else if ladder. First I am checking if the value of I is 50, then it will be printing I is 50. Otherwise, it will go to the next condition. It will check if I is 55, it will print I is 55. Or else it will go to this line where it will check I is 60, it will print I is 60. And finally, if all these three statements are false, then it will continue to the else statement where it will print the default printf statement, which is I is not present. So as I told you in the flowchart, it checks all the conditions and finds the true condition, and then it goes to this end of the program. Here in this case, it will try to execute all the statements. If none of them are true, then it will print the default statement. But in my case, I have taken I equal to 50 and this first if statement is actually true. So let me run it. so that you can get an idea. I am pressing F9 and here you can see I'm getting I is 50 because you can see the I value is 50. So let me change it. I will change it to 20 and then I will run it again. I will press F9. Here you can see as soon as I change the value of I to 20, it says, I will zoom it, let me zoom it for you. I is not present. So this is a basic example of the LCF ladder. You can do many more operations with the help of this LCF ladder. So as I told you, if you have more than two conditions, you can use this method and you will be able to sort out the flow of your output. So let us move on to the next topic, which is the switch statement. So we have seen that when one of the many alternatives is to be selected, we can use an if statement to control the selection. However, the complexity of such a program increases dramatically when the number of alternatives increases. The program becomes difficult to read and follow. At times, it may confuse even the person who designed it. Fortunately for us, C has a built-in multi-way decision statement known as a switch. The switch statement tests the value of a given variable or expression against a list of case values. And when a match is found, a block of statements associated with that case is executed. The general form of the switch statement is as shown here. So as you can see in this general form diagram, the expression is an integer expression or characters. Value 1, value 2 are constants of constant expressions and are known as case levels. Each of these values should be unique within a switch statement. Block 1, block 2, etc. are statement lists and may contain 0 or more statements. There is no need to put braces around these blocks. Note that case levels end with a colon, as you can see here. When the switch is executed, the value of the expression is successfully compared against the values value 1, value 2, etc. If a case is found whose value matches with the value of the expression, then the block of statements that follows the case are executed. The break statement at the end of each block signals the end of a particular case and causes an exit from the switch statement, transferring the control to the statement X following the switch. And finally, the default here is an optional case. When present, it will be executed if the value of the expression does not match with any of the case values. If not present, no action takes place if all matches fail and the control goes to the statement X. In C, we can use as many as 257 case levels. So let us check a flowchart of the switch statement as well. Here you can see we have the entry, then the switch expression, then we have this cases or the expressions which have the value 1, value 2 and finally the default. And then whichever is true, that case will be executed, and if no case is true, then the default case will be executed and then it will give the control to the statement X. So this is a flowchart defining the selection process of the switch statement. So let us check an example of the switch statement in our editor so that we can understand about the switch statement better. So here you can see I have written a program for a simple calculator using the switch statement. What I am doing is, here you can see I have taken a variable operator which is of the character data type. With the help of this, I will take an input from the user about the type of operation he or she wants to do. It may be addition, subtraction, multiplication or division. Then I have taken two variables n1 and n2. This will be the operands and then they are of the floating point data type. Then here you can see this statement will tell the user which type of operation he wants to do. Then here you can see I am taking the type of operator input from the user and then I am taking this print statement, which will tell the user to input the two operands. And then this is the use of the switch. And in the switch, you can see this is the operator. The operator will be out of this four: plus, minus, multiplication, and division. And then you can see this is the syntax of writing it. These are the cases. So this will be the four cases. So if it is plus, then it will calculate the addition of n1 and n2, the two numbers, and then it will break. In this case, it will be n1 minus n2 for this negative symbol, which is subtraction. In this case, it will be multiplication, and it will calculate the product, and then it will break. Or else, in this case, it will be division, and it will calculate n1 divided by n2, and then it will break. Or suppose if all these four cases are not true, and the user provides any other character, then it will print the default statement, which is error operator is not correct. So let us run this program so that we can check whether it is working properly or not. I'm pressing F9 and I'm running it. You can see, let the operator be divide and press enter. It is asking me for the two operands now. Say let me give 20 and then I will give 5 and press enter. You can see it is dividing 20 by 5 here and it is printing the result, which is 4. So 5 4s are 20. The answer is correct. So it is working right. Let me check it for other values as well. I will again run it. Let me zoom it for you. And if I put plus as the operator and press enter, it is asking me for the two operands. I will give 1 and then I will give 2. So 1 plus 2 should be 3. I am pressing enter. You can see the answer is 3 here. And let me check when I give a character which is not present in these four values, which are this: plus, minus, multiplication, and divide. Let me give any other value. So I will press enter and then I will run it again. And here, let me give the character to be, say, a dot. You can see I've given a dot here. And let me press enter. It's asking me for the operands. Let it be 12 and 13, say, and press enter. You can see it says error, operator is not correct. So this is how the switch case is working. Now let me press enter. You can see whenever this four cases are true, then any one of this case will be executed. Otherwise, if I provide an operator which is not present in this four operators, then it will be printing the default statement, which is error operator is not correct. So this is how the switch statement is used in C. So let us move on to the next topic, which is the conditional operator. So what is the conditional operator? The C language has an unusual operator useful for making two-way decisions. This operator is a combination of question mark and colon and takes three operands. This operator is popularly known as the conditional operator or the ternary operator. The general form of use of the conditional operator is as follows: conditional expression, comma, question mark, expression 1, colon, expression 2. The conditional expression is evaluated first. If the result is non-zero or true, expression 1 is evaluated and is returned as the value of the conditional expression. Otherwise, expression 2 is evaluated and its value is returned. For example, let us go on to the editor so that we can check an example and know the proper use of the conditional operator. So here you can see I am using this syntax of the conditional operator here in this program code. What I am trying to do is I am taking a user input of the age of the user. So if the age of the user is less than 18, he or she is not eligible to vote. If it is more than 18, he or she is eligible to vote. That's what I'm trying to print in this program. So I'm taking the variable age, which is integer, then I'm telling the user to print his or her age, then I'm using the conditional operator here, and you can see this is the condition, age greater than equal to 18. If this is true, then it will print eligible for voting. If this statement is not true, it will print not eligible for voting. So let me run it so that you can understand and have a better idea. I'll press F9 and let me just zoom it for you. Enter your age, it says. I will give 5 and press enter. Now you can see it says not eligible for voting. So I'll press enter again and let me run it and show you the other way around. So here again, let me zoom it for you and let me show you by writing say 19 and press enter. Now you can see it says the other way around. It says eligible for voting because this is equal to or more than 18. So this program is working perfectly. So this is a way of using the conditional operator in C language. So now let us go on to the next topic, which is the goto statement. So far, we have discussed ways of controlling the flow of execution based on certain specific conditions. Like many other languages, C supports the goto statement to branch unconditionally from one point to another in the program. Although it may not be essential to use the goto statement in a highly structured language like C, there may be occasions when the use of goto might be desirable. The goto requires a label in order to identify the place where the branch is to be made. A label is any valid variable name and must be followed by a colon. This is very important. We have to follow a label by a colon. The label is placed immediately before the statement where the control is to be transferred. The general form of goto and label statements are shown here. You can see there are two forms, which are the forward jump and the backward jump. Here the label can be anywhere in the program, either before or after the goto label. Note that a goto breaks the normal sequential execution of the program. So in normal sequential execution, it will be executed step by step. But when you use the goto statement, it breaks the normal sequence. If the label is before the statement goto label, a loop will be formed and some statements will be executed repeatedly. Such a jump is known as the backward jump, as you can see in the picture. On the other hand, if the label is placed after the goto label, some statements will be skipped and the jump is known as a forward jump. A goto is often used at the end of a program to direct the control to go to the input statement to read further data. So let us take an example where you will be understanding more about the goto statement. So here I am in my editor and you can see I have used the goto statement here and also here you can see. So what I am trying to do here is I have taken two variables x and y and I am trying to calculate the square root of this x variable and store it in this y variable. Therefore, I have taken these two variables of the floating data type. Then this is the label read and then I am trying to take the user data for this x and then I am checking if the value of x is less than 0, then I am telling the control of the program to go to this read level again, and if it is more than 0, then it will come to this line and it will calculate the square root. And you should keep in mind that this square root function is not available in the standard input output library. Therefore, you have to include the math.h library also for this square root function to work. And finally, after calculating this square root, I am printing this x value also the square root value, which is y. And finally, you can see I'm again using the go to, and what it will do is it will again go to this read level, which is here. So this will create a problem in the program. I want to actually show that problem to you. It will go into an infinite loop and it will not be controllable. So let me run it for you so that you can understand. I'm pressing F9, and here you can see it's waiting for me to provide a data. So I have to provide the data for X. Let me provide 3 here and press enter. Let me zoom it first. Here you can see I provided 3 and then press enter. You can see this is the value of 3 or X. As you can see here, this is X. So I'm getting the square root, which is Y. This is the square root of X, which is 3. Now it's not ending this loop, it is waiting. So if I provide any other data, so 2 and press enter, it is calculating the square root for 2 as well. Then if I provide say 3 and press enter, again it is calculating, but it is not going out of this loop. So to terminate this, you can use the keyboard interrupt, which is Control and C. But you can see sometimes it doesn't work. It is copying or again repeating the same code. You can see if I press Control C, it is again doing the same thing. So in that case, what you can do is you can manually close this program by clicking on this close button. So this is not a good way of using the go to statement, because here I'm using the go to here, it is going to this read label, and finally after the execution of this statement also I'm using the go to. So I will delete this line, I will delete it. Then if I show you how to use it, you will find the proper way of using the go to. I will press F9. Now if I run this, you can see it's asking me for the input. I'm giving 3 and pressing enter. So here you see this is the value of x3 and this is the square root 1.732051, and now it is going out of the program code. So now if I press enter, you have got to know the proper use of this go to. With the help of this, we can go to this read label, because if the value of x is less than 0, I don't want to calculate the square root because it will not be possible. Therefore, what I am trying to do is I am checking the value of x to be positive, and then I am continuing to this statement. If it is not greater than 0, I am telling the program control to go to this read level again. So this is how to do it. And I will show you another example where you will understand more about the go to statement. Let me show it to you. So here you can see I have taken two variables x and y of the floating data type. Then I am taking a count variable which is integer data type, and I am initializing the value of count to 1. And then I am telling the user to print 5 real values in a line. Then I am putting a label read, and then what I am doing is I am taking user input of the 5 real values. So that we are not confused, I have put a slash n here so that the control will go to the next line. And here what I am doing is, if I find that the value of x is less than 0, then I am telling that the value is negative, and then I am showing the value of count as well. You can see here. Then if the value of x is more than 0, it will go to this else block and it will calculate the square root, and here it will print the value of x and also the value of y, which is the square root, and then it will increment the value of count to 1. So this will only be possible if the else block is true, then only it will increment the value of count to 1. And you can see finally I have given an if statement. If the value of count is less than or equal to 5, then it will go to this read level, and finally when this entire code is done and the value of count becomes equal to or greater than 5, then it will go out and it will print end of computation. So what I am doing is I am taking 5 real values and then I am calculating the square root and displaying the output. When the count is more than 5, it will go out and it will print end of computation. Let me run it so that you can understand what is actually happening. I'll press F9 and then you can see enter 5 real values in a line. First, let me give only one value, say 2, and press enter. You can see it's giving me the value of 2 and the square root as well. I will press 3 and press enter. It gave me the result for the value 3 as well. Then I will press 5 and press enter. It gave the result for 5 as well. But it is continuing because you can see this go to is going to this read level here again and again, this read level. So as long as the count is not satisfied, it will keep on going to the read level again and again. So what I will do is I will provide the next one, which is 9, say, and press enter, and it is giving the result. So you can see there are 4 values given, 2, 3, 5 and 9, and now I will give the 5th value, which is say 7, and press enter. Now you can see the count has increased to 5, and this condition, if count less than equal to 5, it becomes equal to 5 in this case. Therefore it prints the next print statement, which is end of computation, and it is finishing the process. So this is how you can properly use the goto statement. Here, with the help of this goto statement, we are going to this level read and taking more input from the user as long as the count value is not equal to 5. So this is how you can do it.
So this is all about this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you like the video, and if you like it, then tell us in the comment section below. If you have any doubts, then post them in the comment section. I will definitely try to clear those doubts. Also, like, share and subscribe to our channel Coders Arcade and press the bell icon so that you will get a notification when we post a new video. Thank you. Happy learning.